SportsLine, everybody, here on News Channel 5 Plus. Pleased to be joined in studio by the voice of the Titans, our buddy Mike Keith. We're off and running.
Let's roll.
It's a beautiful thing.
I love it.
Let's get right into it. Marcus Mariota. I want to go back to the Titans' decision to draft him because it looked like they were going to go with Zach Mettenberger, try to improve the defense, try to improve the offense and defensive lines, and then it was just a matter of that they met with this kid. They fell in love with him. They went out to see him work out in Oregon. They fell in love with him. They bring him out. They fly him in for a day, and they fall in love with him.
Right.
And I'll never forget what Rustin Webster said on draft night. And he said, it became, after a while, it became a case of where I was asking guys, okay, give me a reason not to draft this guy.
Right.
And it goes back to that old saying, right? And I know you know this. If you have a guy that you feel is a potential franchise quarterback, no matter what your situation is, you got to take him, and that's what the Titans did. Because the reason why I bring that up, a lot of people have told me, either on the air, on this show, or off the air, you already had a quarterback. You didn't need to draft this guy. You have to fix the offensive line and the defensive line. Why are you drafting this guy? And so I think it became that situation, like Rustin said, all right, we love everything about this guy. We have to draft him. We're in a position to take this guy. Why wouldn't we?
That's it. And that's what it comes down to. If you don't have a guy, you got to get a guy.
Right.
And the Titans were in a position that they came to feel like this guy is a once-in-a-lifetime caliber player. And it didn't have anything to do with anybody else.
Right.
It didn't have anything.
It wasn't necessarily a knock on Zach Mettenberger. Obviously, there were a lot of unfinished business with Zach Mettenberger, a lot of unknowns about him. Right. But he had flashed a little bit last year.
Oh, sure he had. And they still like him. That's why he's here, and that's why he's part of the equation. And if he has to play this year, they'll feel like they can win with Zach Mettenberger. There's absolutely no question about that. It's just Marcus Mariota is a different player. He's a different person. What he did at Oregon wasn't because of the system. It was because of Marcus Mariota. Now, they have great players, and they have a great system, and they have good coaches. I'm not saying that. But you had to get from, oh, he was a quarterback in the system, to, oh, he made the system. Right. And that's what the Titans discovered over 3 months. John, I did not think they would take a quarterback in January.
I thought they were going to trade out of 2. I said all along they're going to trade out of 2. Right. They're going to try to stay in the top 10, load up on draft, because when you go 2-14, you need bodies. You need to bring people in. I thought probably up until maybe 2 weeks before the draft, and then it hit me. I'm like, they're going to take this guy. They're going to stay at 2, and they're going to take this guy.
On March the 13th, when they signed Derek Morgan and Brian Arakpo, and suddenly they didn't need a defensive end. They didn't need an outside linebacker. And they had just gotten back from that trip to Eugene, Oregon, where he blew them away.
On the field and off the field.
I mean, blew them away. Well, the other story, too, that's so great, if I get a second, I'll share it.
Absolutely. We got all the time in the world.
So he does the big workout that they put on NFL Network, right? And everybody's like, oh, he was, they analyze every throw and every drop and all this. Well, then he leaves with the Titans to go for a private workout. But before they do the workout, they do film study. And so they're in like a film area or whatever for 2 hours. Well, then they're going to go back and work him out with all the Titans' plays and calls and checks and all this. Well, they realized, John, I bet the receivers in the center didn't wait around because it's been 2 hours.
Right.
Well, they walk back into the complex, and there are sitting 7, 8 guys, however many guys, just waiting.
Wow.
And the guys said, listen, for Marcus Mariota, we wait.
Wow.
And all the questions about leadership, which was a big thing because he's not a talker.
Absolutely, right.
All the questions about would men follow him, what about the locker room?
Right.
It was answered in that moment when they walked back into the complex and saw his teammates who had things to do. Right. Girlfriends to go out with, meals to eat, classes to take, whatever you want to say. And all of a sudden they were sitting there. So the workout continued. He was able to run all the Titans plays, make all the calls, do all these amazing things on the field. He had done all this amazing work in the film room, but they were touched as much by that one fact because that showed the leadership and the loyalty. And you know this. Yes. When it gets down to it, the guys in the locker room got to be with the quarterback. Yeah. Because it's going to be really good, and he's going to get too much credit. It's going to be really bad, and he's going to get too much blame. And the only guys that know the truth are the guys in the locker room. And they've got to be with him through good and bad, and that point was made to them right there.
Wow.
It was a huge set.
That's an amazing story. So you're saying you don't foresee anybody coming up to Marcus Mariota and breaking his jaw with a right-hand cross, right?
I don't think that probably happens to him anyway, because I don't think he would ever let anything escalate to that sort of point. But at the same time, I think if anybody got near him, I think somebody would be stepping in very
And if anybody did lay a hand on him, he wouldn't get out of that locker room a lot. So he really is winning over his teammates.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
And that works too. And I'm not telling you something you know, because you've covered players in all different sports, but it's not always the talking. Sometimes what they do on the field, if they're kind of an amazing athlete, the other guys go, oh.
Yeah.
That's what we saw with Steve McNair.
Right.
Steve McNair didn't talk. Steve McNair never made a speech or.
He wasn't a rah-rah guy.
They had a team meeting one time when the team was going wrong. I'll never forget it. They had a team meeting, and Steve stood up and spoke. And the guys were just amazed. They're like, Steve's talking. They didn't hear what he said because they were so amazed. He's actually got something to say. Eddie was the talker.
Right.
Eddie George was the guy who waved the towel and did the talk. Steve was the quiet leader that they loved because of his toughness and because of his amazing athletic ability. They admired him as a person and as a player. And I think this kid has some of the same sorts of qualities in that way. The guy's
That's saying a lot now.
That's right.
Comparing him to Steve McNair.
I know, but I'm talking about the way they play the game.
Right.
And the way they handle themselves, I think there is a similar personality and a similar reaction to them. Now, we'll see if he can produce like Steve McNair did.
Right.
But just on the surface, asking the question, could he win the locker room? Could he show that he could lead? I think he's already done that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Mike Keith is here, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, taking your phone calls, 615-737-7767. He does not tweet, so if you have a Twitter question for Mike Keith, you can tweet it to me at Jon Burton 32. All right, so that's the off-the-field intangible. What have you seen from him on the field? You've been at pretty much every practice so far.
He's good. He's just real good.
Brilliant analysis by the voice of the Titans.
We just cut through it right here on SportsLine. This is what we do on this show.
Well, how much has Ken Whisenhunt kind of intimated that I may have to tweak my offense a little bit for him, but for him I'm willing to do it.
All right.
Have you seen it? I don't want to give away the store.
Bit. Yeah, a little bit. You're seeing some of it, but at the same time, I think you're also seeing that he can do the things that Coach Whisenhunt wants him to do. Listen, at some point, a successful quarterback in the National Football League must throw from the pocket.
Yes.
You got to do it.
Yep.
And if you can't, they're going to find out, and eventually, even a running quarterback, they're going to trap you, and you've got to be able to stand in there and make an accurate throw. I think he's showing he can do that. And then the other elements, he can throw on the move. He can certainly run. The threat of him running scares the opposition to death. And so now people have to kind of hold on a minute. I can't just pin my ears back and come, because if I do and I run by him, then he can go 70 yards for a touchdown.
Right.
So I think all of the elements in his game are so solid, and the cerebral part, the little things, the concentration. There's been a bunch made that he hasn't thrown an interception in camp.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. What do you make of that? I mean, because some people are saying, well, as I drop my pen, well, live TV, folks. Well, it's just practice. I think the Yahoo Power Rankings came out, had the Titans dead last at 32, and their quote was, a lot has been made that Marcus Mariota hasn't. Did you read it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota hasn't thrown an interception in camp. Maybe that's an indictment of how bad the Titans secondary is. Haters gonna hate, right, Philip? Anyway, so what do you make of that?
Well, it shows that he takes care of the football. Listen, quarterbacks don't get hit in practice. Most interceptions are caused because the guy is getting hit or he knows he's going to get hit. So that changes the dynamic. That being said, he's still making good decisions.
Yep.
He's still taking care of the football. The other point, too, they're not having to re-huddle because he can't call the plays or he calls the wrong play. He's not fumbling snaps. All of these things that he's doing, when put into context with the interceptions, I think show how he's managing things so well. Listen, he didn't make a lot of mistakes at Oregon.
He threw 4 picks last year total?
Yeah, but 14 total.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 as
for his career.
For his career.
Yeah.
He takes care of the football because he knows where to go with the football. The other thing, too, unbelievable release.
Yeah.
He can get rid of it, and he can throw it from a lot of different angles. When Kurt Warner was there last week for NFL Network, all I could think about was, Kurt Warner used to throw it this way and this way and this way and this way and underhanded and whatever. This kid sort of is able to do the same thing. He can, if the guy's here, he can flip it, he can throw it over the top. You see just a lot of potential overall in his game. Now, we ain't seen him play a game yet.
Right. That's why I'm reserving judgment.
Well, and it's fair.
Because
it's fair. But
and I'll tell you why, Mike. Because I've made so many bold predictions about the Titans over the years. I said they were going to go 10-6 last year. How'd that turn out? I said that Jake Locker was going to be the franchise quarterback in the face of sports in this town. How'd that turn out? And I love what I see from Marcus Mariota. But I got to see him play in the game.
That's right.
And I mean, that's fair,
and
isn't
it's
it?
totally fair. But what we've seen to this point, he checks the boxes. And that, to me, is the important thing that you have to do with him so far, that you can say on the positive and not go overboard. He's run the practice well. He's handled everything the way he was supposed to in the right way. And now we're going to see him play.
Yeah.
And now we're going to see how it carries over. And now we're going to see how he manages when the defense. And listen, we don't know what the Atlanta Falcons are going to do.
Right.
Dan Quinn is the former defensive coordinator in Seattle. And he's got Richard.
They're a 4-3 too, right?
Well, there's something. They're
whatever they need to be.
They run the Leo or whatever. You don't really know what they are, because in Seattle they had different looks all the time with different personnel. Vic Beasley's coming.
Yep.
He's a good-looking player. So we don't know what they're going to do. Richard Smith, their defensive coordinator. Raheem Morris is the assistant head coach for defense. I mean, they got a lot of brain power on that defense. They're going to want to win Friday too.
Yes.
They're going to play.
At home.
Oh, got to play to
coach.
win. New coach, got to play to win.
Got to play to win.
You need a good. If you're Dan Quinn, you need a good Saturday headline in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Absolutely. All right, hold that thought. We got more with the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. Your phone calls. Ed, I know you're holding. Stay with us through the break. We'll get to you right after. Stay with us.